have done that where I've started interviewing somebody and then forgot to press the button. Now share screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen okay?
I was just wondering if everyone could mute their mics because someone has got their mic unmuted and there's lots of background noise that I can hear, please.
Thank you so much. Oh, you need to be my like co-presenter, supporter person, whoever that was. It's very helpful. Thank you. A very warm welcome to all of you. It's so fun. I wish you were all sitting here right here with me and we can have a cup of tea and a nice gluten-free almond cake. Just kidding. It'll be chocolate mud cake for me. But yeah, it's lovely to have you all here. We're going to talk about homeopathic immunization, and it's actually interesting. I had a phone call from somebody the other day, and she said she had a private message from 3 people sawing my post advertising homeopathic immunization, and all of them were really concerned for me because of all the skeptics out there, and she just wanted to warn me about doing this presentation and this and that and the next thing. So there is a lot of I don't know if many of you know about the homeopath over East, Fran from Homeopathy Plus. He was fined $10,000. It must be going back about 10 years now, and you can find the details online. You can actually find the court case, the court proceedings and the verdict of all of that, because she was quite a big advocate of homeopathic immunization. And yeah, so it was quite a tragic incident, really. And she did rally around in the community, actually all fundraise for her, which ended up paying the $10,000 fine. But she then had to go and put a huge, big notice on her website saying, you know, homeopathic immunization. But basically, anyway, you can go read the court proceedings. But it's really sad that in this day and age that homeopathic immunization has been around for over 200 years. So it is a little bit sad that we kind of have to be on the down low when we're presenting this information. Obviously, I'll say straight off the bat, I'm not here to tell you whether you should or shouldn't vaccinate. That is not my goal for today. And that is a completely individual decision that each of you needs to make. I am only here to give you an option you might not have thought about or might not know about, and that is homeopathic immunization. So just so you know, we also differentiate when we talk about conventional vaccination. Well, I use the word vaccination because I think there's a bit of kind of suggestive wording when we use the word immunization, because that is kind of suggesting that injecting something into somebody is giving them that immunity, when that obviously is not always the case. So we'll talk about homeopathic immunization or homeoprophylaxis or HP. And if I'm talking about conventional, what people call immunization, conventional immunization, I'll use the word vaccination. So just so that's out of the way. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Eugenie Kruger. Hi. I think most of you have, we've probably crossed paths at some stage. I've got a clinic here in Stoneville. You might have heard of my little podcast called Homeopathy Hangout. And today is just, like I said, all about giving you information about a path that you might not have known about or heard much about. Before I go any further, I want to acknowledge Dr. Isaac Golden, who many of you may have heard of. He is an incredible homeopath here in Australia. He's been on my podcast twice, and his daughter, Leah Golden, has also been on my podcast twice. She's also a homeopath. So all of this work, I must have his book home. All of this work is actually based on Dr. Isaac Golden's work that he's done over the past 3 decades. So when I set out to put this course together about 4 years ago or so, I emailed him first and I asked his permission, and I said, I really want to put this out there, educate more families on this. Are you okay with that? And he said, totally fine, go for it. He did also say, just be warned, there's going to be a lot of skeptic attacks. And I was like, that's fine, I've got tough skin. With a little bit of a fun fact. So in my 4 years of homeopathy study in New Zealand, we did not cover homeopathic immunization at all. So if you were to speak to other homeopaths about this topic, you'll get very divided responses, because some homeopaths will say, no, you only treat once the symptoms come up. And other homeopaths can see the benefit in homeopathic immunization. Personally, because I was never taught about it at college, I didn't have much of a thought about it. I knew 1 or 2 homeopaths that use homeopathic immunization. I personally thought they were a little bit silly. I just thought, well, if a disease comes up, I'll just treat it as needed. And I didn't initially homeopathically immunize my children when they were babies. It wasn't until later, which I'll talk to you about soon. So once I moved to Perth, there is a lot more pressure over here to vaccinate children, obviously because of no jab, no play. In New Zealand, there wasn't quite that much pressure. And so once I moved to Perth 6 years ago, I had a lot of families pressuring me for information about homeoprophylaxis. And I had to admit that I was really ignorant because it wasn't something we learned at college. So I realized I quickly have to educate myself on this topic. So I bought all Isaac Golden's books, watched as many videos as I could online, have been in touch with him. He's incredible via email to answer any questions. And I quickly started seeing the benefit of homeopathic immunization. We'll go over all that today, and just my own aha moments as well of how I started seeing the benefit of all of this. There you go. So yeah, just a little bit about me. I've got 2 kiddies, as most of you might know. I've got an 11-year-old son, 8-year-old daughter. I studied in New Zealand. I've got done some other bits and pieces as well. Got a diploma in massage. Actually, my son asked me for a massage the other day, and my daughter said, "I'll give you one." And he's like, "No, Mummy's got a diploma in massage. Actually, I want her to give me one." So yeah, obviously I don't use any of that anymore, but it was great. I've done some Reiki and I've done some Shiatsu as well. And all of you know, I am on a mission to empower mothers to use homeopathy in the home and just, get our power back to be the healers in our families, which is what we've always been. These are just some of the topics that we're going to be covering today. I know all of you know what homeopathy is, and the few of you that possibly don't, I did include that link in the email. Somebody told me this morning that they didn't receive the email. There should have been an email that went out 24 hours ago, so exactly a day ago, and there's another email that went out 1 hour ago. So if you didn't receive those, just let me know. They might be in the spam. It did show that of the 11 people who registered, 8 people had opened that initial email. So I think most of you got that first one. And there will be a email that goes out after this with a recording and also a discount code. So if you're not getting those emails, just make sure that you email me. I'm super quickly going to go over homeopathy because I know I'm preaching to the converted. It was developed by Samuel Hahnemann in the late 1700s, the British family, royal family, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, all those people have used homeopathy. It's based on the law of similars. Most of you probably know about the onion story, and here's chop an onion, eyes start streaming. And so we have a remedy made from the onion that's good for hay fever with streaming eyes. Let me just see, I'll just quickly bring up the chat box because I've just realized I haven't got this here because I just want to see how on earth am I going to bring the chat box up? Oh, here we go. I just want to see, I've got the chat box here. Can any of you just let me know if you know nothing about homeopathy? Just pop it in the chat box. I don't think that would be the case. Or maybe even just pop anything in the chat box, just say hi so I can see that this is all actually working. Oh, hi Becca. Yay. Because I don't really want to be rehashing all of this if all of you know what homeopathy is, and I'd rather than just kind of stick with the nitty-gritty of it all. It's working, cool. Okay, and about the coffee, if you've had too much coffee, it can make you really jittery. So homeopathy is really great for those symptoms of jitteriness, insomnia, all that. I'll just skip through these. You've all seen the little, how the remedies are made. I'll quickly go over this because in case you don't remember that from my intro course, this always fascinates the hell out of me that nitroglycerine is used in a 0.4% dilution given under the tongue. It stops a heart attack in its tracks. It's so incredible. Allergy immunotherapy, that's something that always blows my mind. I have clients who have done this, who are allergic to bee stings, that have told me they've taken their kids for weekly injections for years to do allergy immunotherapy for grasses and for bee stings. Why would you put your child through that trauma when we have a homeopathic remedy that can do exactly the same? And yeah, the principle of using snake antivenom to treat snake bites, those all homeopathic principles. Sorry, I'm preaching to the converted here, I know, but I just can't resist. Quickly skip over that part. So homeopathic immunization, what is it? Homeoprophylaxis is the use of a diluted and potentized substance, so a homeopathic remedy, in a systematic manner. The reason we say systematic is I'm going to be showing you how we're administering these remedies. It's very systematic in how we approach this. And we do this to elicit an immune response and educate the immune system energetically in order to prevent the development of the characteristic symptoms of the disease. So Dr. Cilla Watcott gives this really great quote. She says, with homeoprophylaxis, it is a pure form of the disease because it's energetic. There are no molecules of the original disease. There are no adjuvants. You know, those are the heavy metals and things like that, the antibiotics, all those types of things, the excipients that they put in conventional vaccines. So homeoprophylaxis has none of that. It's only the energetic form of the disease. No adjuvants, no preservatives, no excipients. There's nothing other than the frequency of the original disease. So she calls homeoprophylaxis, she says it's kind of like you downloading a frequency. We know that everything is energy and everything vibrates at a certain frequency. And if we become familiar with the frequency of the disease prior to encountering it, then we know how to mount an appropriate immune response. And we can either repel the disease or at least reduce the severity if we do contract the disease. So that's kind of the idea behind homeoprophylaxis or homeopathic immunizations. You're kind of energetically downloading this blueprint of a particular disease and what that might look like. And you educating your immune system on what that might look like so it can mount a response. Homeoprophylaxis has been used for 200 years, pretty much as long as homeopathy has been used, because shortly after Hahnemann discovered homeopathy, there was an outbreak of scarlet fever. And the story goes that there was this little girl that he was treating in this family, and she happened to have been treated with belladonna for the particular illness that she had. And then around that time, everybody in her household got scarlet fever except for her. And that kind of triggered Hahnemann to start thinking, well, maybe remedies can be used to actually prevent a disease, because belladonna happens to be the main remedy that we use for scarlet fever. And because she had been given this remedy before she was introduced to the disease, she then didn't get the symptoms of the disease. Very interesting little facts, which is kind of a bit sad as well, is that Edward Jenner, who most of you will know was the founder of conventional vaccination with the smallpox vaccine, he actually invented vaccination in 1796 in America. And Samuel Hahnemann discovered homeopathic immunization in 1798 in Germany. So it was actually only 2 years apart. And if you think about the fact that, you know, there wasn't the internet or anything like that, they were in 2 different continents, and this idea of stimulating the immune system to create an immune response actually happened 2 years within each other, but over 250 years ago. So I think that's pretty amazing as well. I like that idea of you put the thought out there, you put the energy out there, and then it's kind of in the cosmos to be picked up. So I do get a little bit sad of this, because I think if only homeopathic immunization had really gotten a hold, we would have had such a different health outcome today if only homeopathic immunization had prevailed. Yeah. So homeopathic immunization can be used for short-term or long-term protection. But it's really Dr. Isaac Golden who started popularizing the use of HP in long-term homeoprophylaxis. So we had been using homeoprophylaxis in epidemics in short-term for over 200 years, and we'll go over some of those instances soon. But Isaac Golden was the one who started using a long-term plan for this. His introduction to homeopathy was actually when one of his children suffered a vaccine reaction. So it's very interesting hearing his story of how he got introduced to this world of homeopathy and homeopathic immunization. This is just a little bit of a rundown of the amazing Dr. Isaac Golden. I don't know if you've listened to any of my podcast episodes with him, but he's just such a warm, beautiful man that's working so hard to promote homeopathy. He founded the Australasian College of Hahnemannian Homeopathy in 1990, written many journal articles, many books. He was the first person to receive a PhD from a mainstream Australian university on research on a homeopathic topic. And right at the end of today's chat, I will give you the PDF. It's available free of charge online of this PhD research that he did, which we're going to be touching on today as well. He has done immunization research in Cuba and India at the request of their governments. He's worked at Endeavour College of Natural Health. He also co-founded the Health Australia Party. So really amazing man that's doing amazing work. So what are some reasons? Oh, hang on. Can you see this chat box here in the middle of everything? I'm just suddenly realizing that now, because can you see the chat box? Is it move it to the side? Okay, so you can also see everybody, like everybody that I've got here on the side. No, okay, so you can, but you can see the chat box. Oh no, so the chat, I just want to make sure, is the chat box covering up?
The chat box you can minimize.
Okay.
But I have everyone else on the side of my laptop screen. So it's like me, you, and then a couple other ladies, and then the whole presentation. So I've minimized the chat box.
Okay, I'm just wondering if I minimize.
But I can see your whole screen.
Oh, you can see the whole screen. Okay, well, I'll just,
it
just feels creepy to minimize all of you because, okay, I'll maybe put one of, it's just weird not to just talk to a, I need that feedback. So what I'll do is, because it's, just don't want to, for anybody watching the recording, I don't want to spoil any of this. So I can't see anybody at the moment. So let's see how this goes. I've got the chat box right here. I was thinking, if I just don't want to, if any of you are talking, I don't want to be missing your questions. Hey, Becca, can you be my person that if anybody's asking an important question or if anything's happening that I'm not seeing, can you just yell out? Just minimize everything here. Okay, let's keep going. So what are some reasons for why you might decide to use homeopathic immunization? I mean, all of you are here because you're interested in some way, and some of you might decide to go ahead, and some of you might decide that it's not for you. But some reasons of why you might want to do this is that homeopathic immunization works with your body's natural pathways to activate the immune system. So normally when we encounter a pathogen or a disease-causing organism, it usually enters our body through our mucous membranes or through our nasal passages or through our skin. And this is also the way in which we introduce the homeopathic remedies. It goes onto our tongue. So it's the natural way in which our body is normally introduced to pathogens, as opposed to, for example, conventional vaccination, which actually bypasses our body's first line of defense by injecting it straight into our body. That actually creates what's called a Th2 immune response, which is a type of emergency response. So your body goes, oh my gosh, there's an attack, quick, mount an immune response. And then once the trigger has gone, once the emergency is over, that immunity wanes again. So it's not a long-lasting response, which is why you always need to go back for boosters for your vaccinations, because it's only that emergency response that your body creates, and then it just goes away again, and your body thinks, oh, that threat is gone. I don't need to build a long-lasting immunity towards this. But if you're encountering it in a natural way, your body goes, okay, I've got time to, I can build a long-lasting immune response. Those antibodies are staying in there forever. There are obviously exceptions, I just have to say, because I do know clients who have had 2 or even 3 rounds of chickenpox or 2 or 3 rounds of measles, but that is absolutely the exception to the rule. In most cases, once you've acquired a natural disease, then you will have antibodies and you won't get that again. The other beautiful thing is once you have naturally acquired immunity, that is something that can be passed through to your breast milk, to your baby, to protect them, which is pretty amazing. Hands up if you have had measles. Any of you ever had measles? Yeah. Oh, Jen's putting her hand up. Cool. I can't see anybody else. So if you're putting your hand up, that's great. So, oh, Rosemary raised her hand. Great. So you are at a reduced rate of a whole variety of chronic diseases. I don't know if you know this. I've got the study at the end as well, but there's actually studies that suggest a link between naturally acquired measles infections and a reduced risk of Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphomas, as well as a reduced risk of atopic diseases such as hay fever, eczema, and asthma. And that's really interesting if you think of the huge amount of people that have eczema and asthma and hay fever these days. And many of us didn't have naturally acquired measles, or certainly our children haven't. So that's very interesting. In addition, measles infections are associated with a lower risk of mortality from cardiovascular disease in adulthood. So how cool is that? Moreover, infants born to mothers who have had naturally acquired measles are protected from measles via the maternal immunity longer than infants born to vaccinated mothers. So we can see that there's definitely a valid reason for us to get these naturally acquired diseases. But then at the same time, not all infectious diseases are benign. So benign obviously means it's not minimal. So there are risks involved with some diseases. And I'll be honest if I say meningitis was one of the things that really freaked me out with my kids. I'm not worried about chicken pox, measles, whooping cough, any of that. But I have to say meningitis was something that freaked me out a little bit. So when I heard about homeopathic immunization, this was the first thing that sold me. Is I felt much better knowing that I had done something to protect my children from meningitis, or to reduce the risk of them getting meningitis. So not all diseases are benign, like I said. So for example, meningitis. I just want to make sure I've covered all the bits here and I haven't skipped. Okay, the other reason of why you might want to do homeopathic immunization is that vaccines need to have a really close match to the disease-causing organism for it to be effective. And we're going to be talking about that shortly as well when we talk about the Cuba incident that happened. Whereas with homeopathic immunization, because it's based on the law of similars, like cures like, the remedy only needs to be similar to the disease. So it doesn't actually matter how many times the virus or the bacteria mutates or change, the homeopathic remedy will still help, which is great. And bacteria and viruses have been on this planet much longer than any of us. They're much smarter than any of us, and they are always going to be finding very clever ways of mutating. They want to survive, so they're very clever. And a classic example of this is MRSA infection, which I'm sure all of you have heard, which is rampant in hospitals. So this is where the bacteria have become resistant to certain types of antibiotics, which is obviously extremely dangerous. If you ever watched the documentary Just One Drop, there is a case in there. Oh no, sorry, it was Magic Pills. I always get the two mixed up. It was in the Magic Pills one with Ananda Moore, who was also on the podcast. Just One Drop was the lady Laurel Chiton was also on the podcast, but she follows a case of a man with MRSA, who, yeah, he almost died, and it was homeopathy that actually saved him. So for us to think that we are going to outsmart viruses and bacteria, I just always feel if we can just get it through in people's heads, we're never going to outsmart a bacteria or a virus. They've been here billions of years before any of us. We're all going to be long gone, human, like there'll be nothing left on the planet, but viruses and bacteria will still be here because they are much smarter than us. So we need to drop this idea of thinking that we can outsmart them. And that's what I feel that we're doing with vaccines, is we think we can just outsmart these viruses and bacteria, but they keep mutating. That's not going to happen. Another reason for why you might want to do prophylaxis is if you or somebody in your family have had past reactions to vaccinations. Also, if you have the MTHFR gene mutation, which also most of you will probably know about by now, it's a hot topic. If you haven't, it basically is your methylation pathways or your detox pathways. If you have certain genetic SNPs, then it's harder for you to detox. So if you have this, it's going to be harder for you to detox the heavy metals and things like that that are present in vaccinations. So homeopathic immunization might be a good option for you as well. Homeopathic immunization introduces the body to one disease at a time, which I love, because if any of you have ever looked at the childhood vaccine schedule, at 2, 4, and 6 months, they actually vaccinate them with 8 different diseases in one go. What's your immune system supposed to do with that? It's so much information on a tiny little body. So the fact that homeopathic immunization does it one disease at a time, I feel makes so much more sense. So I have a little image to give you. That's if you, for example, imagine that you, like, I always try to relate everything back to nature. So I always try to think of myself, where on earth am I going to get naturally exposed to 8 diseases at the same time? And I can think of one scenario, like if you were in hospital, like you went to a hospital ward to go visit somebody, and then you got stuck. I'm saying hospital because it's the only place I can think where all these diseases would be in one place. So say, for example, you're in hospital, you go into an elevator, and suddenly the elevator door closes. And just before it closes, all these people rush into the elevator, the doors close, and suddenly you're stuck in an elevator with somebody who has got diphtheria, whooping cough, hepatitis B, polio, head pneumococcal, and rotavirus. And all of them are like spitting and coughing and bleeding on you at the same time. Like, and then as you run out of there, you step on a rusty nail and you get tetanus. Like, that's literally the only scenario I can think of where in your life you are naturally going to get exposed to these 8 diseases at the same time. Now, next, I want to talk about Isaac Golden's health survey that he did. So this is what he got his PhD on, and the link for this, like I said, is right in the end in the notes. So this is also what sold me on homeopathic immunization. Like I said, I didn't use HP with my kids when they were babies because we didn't learn much about it. So it wasn't until my kids were a bit older and I educated myself on this topic. My daughter was 2 and my son was 5 when I started their homeopathic immunization. And this was Dr. Isaac Golden's PhD that really sold me. So he did a health survey covering a variety of different questions like, asthma, eczema, ear, hearing, allergies, behavior, all that sort of stuff. So it was a survey that parents filled out for their various children. He did it over 15 years and he had 2,342 responses, which you might say is actually not on a big scheme of things. It's not a big sample group, but anyway, 2,342 responses. He broke those responses up into 4 groups. So the first group was people with children that only had homeoprophylaxis. They've never had any vaccination at all. The second group were children who were conventionally vaccinated. The third group were children who had nothing. So they were like my kids. I'd never homeopathically immunized them or conventionally vaccinated them. I just treated them with homeopathy as things came up. The fourth group received nothing. So no immunization, no vaccinations, no homeopathy, just nothing. So Isaac Golden hypothesized that the children who would have the best health outcomes would be my children, the one in the general group who had not had homeoprophylaxis, not vaccinated. They were just treated with homeopathy as things came up. What he found was actually that the homeoprophylaxis group had the best health outcomes. So the least amount of allergies, the least amount of ear and hearing issues, least amount of issues with behavior, all that sort of stuff. He found that really, really interesting. And there's actually a really good explanation for all of this. And one of this I can use for my own family, for example. My great-granddad died of tuberculosis. And interestingly, when I was studying homeopathy, my remedy that really helped me and also my son is the remedy tuberculinum, which is made from tuberculosis disease tissue. So it's interesting that him dying from TB, obviously there's a susceptibility in our family, and that the remedy TB then was really curative for myself and my son. So you can use TB as a homeopathic immunization remedy as well, by the way. Another example is a family here in Perth that I worked with. The husband had whooping cough when he was 18 years old. And so by the time I saw him, he was in his 40s. So he had what we call NWS, never well since. So he had whooping cough at 18. And ever since then, whenever he gets the slightest cold, his cough goes straight into a whooping cough-like cough. And very interestingly, when we then did homeopathic immunization with their son, when he was born, they did it right from the beginning. When he had the homeoprophylaxis for whooping cough, he had a really big response to that remedy. He had, for about a day, what sounded like whooping cough, so a really big cough. And the next day, he was completely fine. Now, you can imagine if he never had homeoprophylaxis, that little baby boy, he never would have had the opportunity to clear this energetic susceptibility that has been handed down from his dad, to clear that out of his system, if that makes sense. So this is why Isaac Golden hypothesized why the homeoprophylaxis group had the best health outcomes, because they had the opportunity to clear any energetic weaknesses or susceptibilities that had been handed down to them from their ancestors. So if there was a history of, some of us, if you're adopted especially, you won't necessarily know your family background, your family medical background. Your parents might have passed away young, or they might not just be aware of what illnesses their parents have had. I happen to have known that my great-granddad died of tuberculosis because that was a big thing in our family. But you might not know these things, or this family, they might not have put 2 and 2 together about the dad having had whooping cough and never well since, and this child's reaction. So I hope that makes sense. Can you just quickly comment in the chat box? Let me know if you need me to explain any of that a little bit further, because I really want to make sure that you get this. That's with using homeopathic immunization, you have the opportunity to clear inherited susceptibilities that's energetically been handed down to you to have a stronger vital force. Okay. Something else that was huge for me, mind-blowing, is Dr. Bracho from the Finlay Institute in Cuba. this is a conventional vaccine manufacturing facility, which we'll talk about a little bit more soon. And you can also find YouTube videos of Dr. Bracho and Dr. Isaac Golden on YouTube, where they sit in this little hotel in Cuba and they have this little chat. It's really interesting. That they did this test where they injected rats with leptospirosis. So actually, let me start off this. They had these rats, they divided them into two groups. The one group received the leptospirosis homeopathic immunization. The other group did not. They injected all of the rats with the leptospirosis disease, and 80%, so all of the rats who received the homeopathic immunization survived. All of those who didn't died. And that what was really interesting is that of those who received the homeoprophylaxis, 80% of them did not have any antibodies, they didn't produce any antibodies. This is something that we get asked about a lot in homeopathic immunization is, will it show up in a titer test? So a titer test is a blood test that you can do to see what your immunity level is like, what your antibody level is like. So you can also, for example, skip some of the childhood vaccines if your child can show, for example, that they have immunity to certain diseases. They can't titer test all diseases, but they can for some. So, for example, if your child has had the 12-month MMR vaccine, and then you go and do a blood test after that, and their antibodies are high enough for measles, you can skip the second vaccine. This is what a medical doctor here in Perth told me. Not all doctors are going to be on board with that, so just be careful who you speak to. So homeopathic immunization. So what I want you to understand with this is all of those rats survived who had the homeoprophylaxis, despite the fact that 80% of them did not show as having antibodies to this disease. So the homeopathic immunization immunity works on an energetic level. I can also tell you a little fun fact. This is obviously anecdotal, that there is a homeopath here in Perth whose daughter went on to go study to be a doctor, a medical doctor. She's never had vaccines. He's only ever done homeoprophylaxis with her. And she was able to skip some of her vaccines to become a doctor, which is one of the requirements when they graduate, because she actually showed immunity to many of the diseases that they want to vaccinate her for. So she'd never been vaccinated before in her life. She used only homeopathic immunization, and antibodies did show up for her. So it's anecdotal. There are some people that will show up antibodies, most won't. So if you're going to do homeopathic immunization with the hopes for it to come up in a titer test, it's probably not going to. And Isaac Golden will be the first one to tell you homeopathic immunization does not work by producing physical antibodies in a titer test. Does that make sense? Just give me a little holler down in the chat box so I know we're on track. I like your little thumbs up too, Becca. Thanks for that. It also helps. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's your child, it's your choice. Thanks for the thumbs up, Rosemary. I wish I can just impart this on every single mother. It's your child, it's your choice. I don't know where this came from, that we somehow allowed the people around us to make us think that we don't have the first decision when it comes to the way that we birth and raise our children. We always have the first and the only choice. It's always up to us. You are going to be the one that has to take time off work and possibly not get paid if your child has measles. If they have naturally acquired measles, you're going to be the one who stays home looking after them, nobody else, not the doctor, not your mother-in-law who's hassling you, not your mum, not your sister, not your cousin, not your best friend, nobody else. It's you. You are also going to be the one that has to look after your child if they have a vaccine reaction, not the doctor who's pressuring you, not the nurse, not your mother-in-law, not your cousin, not your best friend, none of them. So whatever happens, you are the one that has to take responsibility for whatever decision you make. No decision, no choice, neither of these choices, whether you conventionally vaccinate or homeopathically immunize, can 100% guarantee you immunity. Homeopathic immunization can't. Some of the figures I'll show you today shows it's got about 95% efficacy. I don't know of a single vaccine that has a 95% efficacy. If you look at, for example, the whooping cough vaccine, it only has about a 67% efficacy. Flu vaccine is about 28% efficacy. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And either way, the decision you make is yours as well as consequences. So that's what I want you to get out of today, is make your decision from a place of empowerment, not from a place of fear. Whichever decision you make, tune in with yourself, check in with yourself and think, am I making this decision from a place of empowerment or from a place of fear? And if it's from a place of fear, it means you're not educated enough on the topic. You need to go sit down, do some research, find out more information, and have all your questions answered until you're feeling quiet and calm in yourself. And you can say with assuredness, whichever way you go, that this is the right decision for you and your family. Sorry for that serious stuff. I just had to get that out of the way. When has HP been used? Well, there's actually on the Homeopathy Plus website, funny enough, there is this 12-page list of historical records of when homeopathy has been used over the centuries. I can say centuries because it's more than one. It's 2.5. In 1798, Hahnemann used belladonna to treat and prevent scarlet fever, also used it for Asiatic cholera in 1831. In 1853, there was another case of scarlet fever. In 1907, the variolinum was used for chickenpox. Dr. Krishnamurti used it for flu. And then there was a nice big sample study in Brazil, actually a couple of them in Brazil, which is really cool. 1974 in Brazil, there was an epidemic of meningitis where 18,000 children under the ages of 15 years old were given meningococcinum, which is a homeopathic remedy made from meningococcal. How they would make this remedy is they would use the spit of somebody with clinically confirmed meningococcal and then dilute and succuss the remedy and make it from that. So 6,340 children of similar ages were not covered. The results after 6 months was that the HB cases, so those who had homeoprophylaxis, came from less wealthy and most at-risk groups. And the unprotected came from wealthier, less at-risk groups. Of the 18,000 protected homeopathically, there were only 6 cases of meningococcal. Of the 6,340 cases that were not protected, there were 10 cases. So, I mean, that's pretty significant, and especially considering that those that didn't have the HP was because they were in affluent areas that were not really at risk. In 1998, there was even more impressive results where 65,000 children were given the nosode and 23,000 were unprotected. The remedy showed a 95% efficacy in the first outbreak and 95% efficacy after 6 months and 91% effective after 12 months in the second outbreak. Now, this is the one that I want to talk about. That is, I think, is amazing. Now, every year in Cuba, there is an outbreak of leptospirosis. Now, it's a disease that's carried in the feces of rats and mice and dogs and cats and that sort of thing. But then every year they also have hurricanes. You can imagine you've got like poos and wheeze of the animals everywhere in the streets, and then there's a hurricane. So there's just poos and wheeze everywhere, and everybody gets exposed to leptospirosis. In this particular year, and this is a beautiful interview that you can find on YouTube with Dr. Bracho. It's so cool. And taking into account, he is a medical immunologist working at a conventional vaccine manufacturer, okay? What happened this particular year that not only did they have incredible floods, but the bacteria, leptospirosis bacteria, used to be 3 strains, but it had mutated into a 4th strain because every year, everybody gets vaccinated for leptospirosis. So what is the bacteria going to do? It's going to mutate because, like I said, it's much smarter than any of us. So they had this massive issue on their hand that the bacteria had mutated. Dr. Bracho, in this interview, he says it would have optimistically taken them at least 3 years to create a new vaccine incorporating this 4th strain. So in this state of panic, the Cuban government told the Finlay Institute, which is this conventional vaccine manufacturer, that they have to start producing homeopathic remedies to homeopathically immunize the people because, you know, like I said before, it's like cures like. And of course, the homeopathic remedies doesn't have to go through a cold chain, doesn't have to be kept refrigerated. You need no education in order to, it doesn't have to be injected. So anybody can give 2 pillules to somebody. So it's really easy to administer. And they already have these incredible infrastructure in place, because everybody knows every year they have to go to their GP in their town and go and get vaccinated. So they already have that infrastructure in place. So what happened is they gave 2.3 million people received homeoprophylaxis in high-risk areas. So these were the low-lying areas of the town where there's going to be lots more water, very poor people. 2.3 million people received homeoprophylaxis. 8.8 million people did not receive it. There was an 84% decrease in those who had homeoprophylaxis within weeks, and a 22% increase in the untreated areas. Now, this is the type of information that I feel needs to get shouted from the rooftops. It needs to be on all the media outlets. It needs to be public knowledge. We're not talking about, Isaac Golden's PhD that he did with 2,300 people. We're talking about 2.3 million people that received the homeoprophylaxis with an 84% decrease. So I don't know about you ladies, but I think that's pretty impressive. So let's have a little look at what the childhood immunization schedule looks like, only because many people, they just simply take their child for the vaccine. They don't actually go and look what it is that their child is going to get. So this is just a quick little look for those that might not know. Obviously, these days at birth, they tend to give vitamin K, the vitamin K vaccine, and also the hepatitis B at birth. So some people think vitamin K is just like a supplement. It's not. There's all sorts of other adjuvants and things in there as well. Then at 6 weeks, 4 months, and 6 months, this is, by the way, the Western Australia vaccine schedule, but I think the other states are pretty similar. They're going to get vaccinated for 8 different diseases, again at 4 months and again at 6 months. So if you go 8 times 3, that's 24 vaccines, basically, by the time your child is 6 months old. And then at 12 months, they're going to get MMR, as well as pneumococcal and meningococcal. Then at 18 months, they're going to get diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough, the hemophilus, measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella, which is a lot. And then at 4 years, they get diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough, polio, and then if they're at risk, obviously there's other ones there as well. So it's quite a lot. I just want to contrast that with what the homeopathic immunization program looks like. So we're going to be giving them the diseases. So don't worry too much about this at the moment. It looks a little bit confusing, I know. We're going to basically, there's 2 programs. There's a main program and then there's a supplementary program. So the main program is going to include homeopathic immunization for pertussis, tetanus, pertussis, by the way, is whooping cough, tetanus, pneumococcal, hemophilus, and meningococcal. And this is the supplementary program. So I'll show you shortly how you can include this if you want to. It includes remedies for polio, measles, hepatitis B, influenza, rotavirus, and also for treating tetanus wounds. I also asked Dr. Isaac why he didn't have diphtheria, chickenpox, mumps, and rubella as part of the homeoprophylaxis program. And his email response was that diphtheria is not actually present in Australia, which does beg the question of why are we still vaccinating if it's not actually present. And chickenpox, mumps, and rubella are very mild diseases and are very easily treated with homeopathy. So he hasn't included it in his program, but we can add it in for you if you want. You'll also see these codes here. This will say A1 and A3. So you'll see A1 here is pertussin, which is the whooping cough nosode in a 200C potency. And A3 is that same nosode in a 10M potency. And you'll see B1, B3. These codes are actually the exact codes that Dr. Isaac Golden uses. When I put together my prophylaxis program, I've used exactly his work. And I have to acknowledge as well that he has done all this work and handed it on a platter to any homeopath in the world who wants to use this work, which it's just absolutely incredible of him. I've decided to keep the codes exactly the same as his, because in the prophylaxis program, I'm also going to give you the exact same questionnaire that Isaac Golden uses. And in the questionnaire, you're going to fill out these numbers. So I want my codes to be the same as his codes, so that if you are completing this questionnaire, that you can post that or email that to Isaac Golden, and he can use that in his data, because he is continually updating his information. He has never stopped updating his information. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself. Oh no, I've got it here. Excellent. This is the book, The Complete Practitioner's Manual of Homeoprophylaxis. And right at the end of the book here, you can see that he has recorded every single person who, there's pages and pages here in the back, every single person who has ever emailed him. They get a code, so it will say here, what are some of the reactions to the HP remedy? So he's got a code here, 11091. The whooping cough remedy caused a vomit. 12041. One whooping cough dose at age 4 months, 3 nights in a row where he cried. 12101. Whooping cough dose, first dose, bad nappy rash. But this may have been coincidental. So do you see, like, it's unfiltered information of the feedback forms that people have emailed through to him that he documents, so that he has all of this in here. So you can see every reaction of every response that he's received from any of his clients. It's pages and pages and pages that he's put in here of people that have completed the questionnaire. So I always, sorry, I'm harping on about this a little bit, but I do want you, if you do this program, to complete the questionnaire and then send it through to Isaac Golden to help him continue his work that's been going on for 3 decades. Okay, so this is the Q&A part, which when I used to do this presentation in person, I used to say to people, if they can think of a question that I haven't already answered, I would give them a free remedy. And I have to say, in all the talks I've done, which is dozens, I've never given out a free remedy. So I am pretty confident that any question you could possibly have about homeoprophylaxis, I'm going to answer for you today. You're also going to be receiving all of this as a handout. The name of the book, Jen, is The Complete Practitioner's Manual of Homeoprophylaxis. If you're not a homeopath, I don't know if it's going to be that helpful. To be honest, we're covering most of what you would benefit out of this. We're covering today anyway, but certainly support Isaac Golden's book. And if you want to buy the book just to, even to support him, go do that. Okay, so I just want you to know that, because I know sometimes when you have a question in your mind, it's hard to focus on the material that's been presented because you so desperately want to know that that question is going to get answered. So what I've done here is shown you all the questions that we're going to be going through. Okay, so I want you to kind of just relax and know that whatever question you're probably going to have, I'm going to be answering for you. And if I haven't, make sure you write it down, and there's loads of time for us to do it at the end. I've purposely done this webinar as 2 hours, so we don't have to rush through any of this. We can really take our time, okay? This is what the prophylaxis schedule looks like. It might look a little bit confusing just looking at it, but we'll talk through it step by step, okay? And this is I don't know where these green marks have come from. That's strange. That's weird. So this is what the next page looks like. So this is normally all on one single A4, but to make it easier to read on the slides, I've cut it in half and just done it across. So yeah, this is the second page, and this is the first page. So if you are starting off with homeopathic immunization with your newborn bubby, then you are probably going to start at when they're 1 month old with the pertussin remedy in a single dose. That's the one that has got the remedy label A1. Okay, and you're going to write down the date of the administration and who gave the remedy. So I'm going to answer a few questions that I'm sure you have straight off the bat. Because you'll see the next month we give a triple dose. Now, a triple dose means 2 pillules every 8 hours for 3 doses. So basically, you're giving the remedy 3 times within 24 hours. So a triple dose, we're kind of just building on that dose that you've given. It's given within 24 hours, so it's kind of just strengthening that dose, which is different to if you were to give the remedy daily for 3 days, then you have the potential to cause what's called a proving symptom, where if the remedy is not needed, you can end up proving the proving the symptoms which the remedy is known to cure. So quick example is if you were giving arnica daily when it's not needed, you might end up producing bruises in your body. You might end up getting bruises everywhere because arnica is known to heal bruises. So what you do then is you stop taking the remedy and the bruises will go away. That's called a proving symptom. So if that's new information for you, I don't want to overwhelm you. Yes, Rosemary, the quick answer is you can just pick up where you left off. She's got a question there. To purchase a kit in 2018, only administered a few remedies at the time, then stopped. Can I pick up where I left off? Will the remedies still be okay? Homeopathic remedies don't expire. So yes, they'll be okay. And you can just pick up where you left off. Okay. So I'm going to start this again. So at 1 month old, you'll give your bubby Pitacinin 200C in a single dose. Now what we're doing is we're just popping that remedy in there, one single dose, and then we're seeing what happens. And we wait for an entire month before we give the next dose. The next dose is at 2 months old. This time we're going to give a triple dose. So we're going to give 2 pillules every 8 hours for 3 doses. Now, first question often is, what if my child's older than 1 month old? You can start this program at any age. Like I said, I started with my kids when they were 2 and 5 years old. So you can start with any age. You can also start with any disease. So for example, my main concern was meningococcal. So I actually started my children's program with meningococcal triple dose. And the reason I started with that is because the single dose is really good if your baby is very little. So say, for example, they do have a clearing reaction, like the little boy I talked about before, whose dad had whooping cough, never well since, gave the child the whooping cough remedy, and he had a clearing reaction. When they're that little, it can be a little bit overwhelming. We're still new mothers. So we don't really know what to do. So we don't want to overwhelm their systems too much. But if you're starting this program and your child is over 2 years old, you can actually skip the single doses and just go straight to the triple dose, because your child can say, Mommy, my tummy doesn't feel good. Mommy, my head doesn't feel good. They can tell you what's going on. So you can cut this whole program by half by starting with triple doses if your child is over 2. So like I said, for me, my main concern was meningococcal. So I started with my kids there in a triple dose straight off the bat. But for you with little bubbies, beautiful bubbies sleeping on your chest, you're probably going to want to start with Pitacinin, Phoebe, because obviously if little bubbies get pertussis, it's not fun. The very scary thing with a whooping cough vaccine as well. I mean, they call it the whooping cough vaccine, but actually it's, it's Influenza Hexa, which is actually 6 diseases in one, but they call it the whooping cough vaccine. The problem with that is what it actually does is it makes you an asymptomatic carrier when you have that vaccine. What that means is that you can actually have whooping cough, but you won't have any of the symptoms of it. Now, if you had actual whooping cough, you'd be coughing your lungs out and you would know to stay home and not be around people. But if you're an asymptomatic carrier, you won't know that you have whooping cough and you go and socialize everywhere and spread your bugs everywhere without anybody knowing. So that's a very scary part. So out of these diseases, if your bubby is very little, I would start with Pitacinin. I wouldn't probably muck around with that schedule too much. But if you, say, for example, have a family history of meningococcal or something like that, you're really concerned, then you can, obviously, like I said, you can switch them around. So at 1 month, you're going to give the whooping cough single dose. At 2 months, you're going to give whooping cough triple dose. Then at the 3rd month, you're going to give pneumococcinum. And once again, pneumococcinum can lead to a type of meningitis. So you might want to swap these around, like I said. Single dose, and the next month, triple dose. Hemophilus at 5 months old, single dose, 6 month old, triple dose. You can see where I'm going with this. Now, tetanus isn't in here until 9 months old. I probably wouldn't give that one sooner because your child's not really going to be mobile before 9 months. So the chances of them cutting themselves or having a tetanus high risk injury is not going to happen before 9 or 10 months, or if they're not walking till after a year, not till then anyway. So that one I would leave as is. Now you're going to see this is our main program done and dusted. Okay. The 5 main diseases out of the main program you've got covered by the time the child is 10 months old. Now you're going to see a little gap here at 11 months. This gap you can use if you are somebody that's concerned about your child having measles, or maybe you're going overseas and you're concerned about your child having cholera or TB. You're going to Africa and you're worried about your child getting TB or something like that. This is the gap where you would start introducing diseases that you have concerns about. And you'll see there'll be more and more gaps as we go on. What we're going to do when the child is 12 months or exactly 1 year after whatever the remedy was that you gave, you're going to give a triple dose of the 10M potency of that remedy. So you know how we had potassium in a 200C here? 1 year later, you're going to give potassium again, but in 10M. Now, this is going to give much deeper, more long-acting immunization. So you're going to give a triple dose. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. I could feel it tickling my nose. Okay. Then pneumococcinum at 15 months. So you can see here at 3 months, then exactly 12 months later, you're going to give pneumococcinum 10M in a triple dose. So here you will see there's actually a 3-month gap from 12 months to 15 months. So here you can include some other remedies. So for example, oscillococcinum or anise barb, which is a remedy that is used for flu prevention, which we're going to be talking about. It's in the supplementary program. So say, for example, this is around winter time, you want to start including oscillococcinum, this would be the place to do it. Hemophilus here at 5 months, 1 year later, got a triple dose, same with meningococcinum, same with tetanus. So you hopefully you understand that side of it. Here you're going to have some nice big gaps. You're going to continue that yearly immunization of the triple dose. So after you've done that first 10 months, just once a year, you're going to be doing a triple dose of that until they're about 6 years old or so. You can also use these same remedies if there are any acute outbreaks. So say, for example, there's a whooping cough outbreak in your school and you have the prophylaxis kit and you've already done the prophylaxis for whooping cough, but it was maybe 6 months ago. And suddenly everyone in school has whooping cough. You can take the 200C remedy twice weekly for 2 weeks during the outbreak. Or if there's polio, I mean, you do get vaccine-induced poliomyelitis. It's actually like there's a known disease, there's a known terminology for it, which is usually a side effect of the polio vaccine. It's more prevalent in places like India, where the children actually get polio from the vaccine. So if you happen to be exposed to something like that, you can take the remedy as well. Now, morbillinum is the measles nosode. So if there's a measles outbreak, you can use it then. So this is a supplementary program. These are the extra remedies that's in the kit. So that's the polio, there's measles in there as well. There's the flu remedy, so oscillococcinum, and there's also rotavirus. Now, the rotavirus is one I would probably, if you are somebody that regularly goes to play groups, when the kiddies are around 6 weeks, 4 months, and 6 months, they're all going to get their rotavirus vaccines. And that sheds like crazy. I don't know if you've ever been around babies who've had the rotavirus vaccine, but you want to not touch them with a barb pole because that's a live virus vaccine and it sheds like crazy. So if you're going to be going to play groups where the kids are going to be mouthing the same toys, or mums are going to be changing diapers and maybe not having washed their hands properly, or there's going to be saliva or things like that, you want to make sure, you probably want to squeeze a rotavirus remedy in between here somewhere. So even though like you might do the hemophilus, say for example, for 5 months, you want to start going to play group, give the hemophilus, then 2 weeks later, give one rotavirus remedy, then 2 weeks later, give the hemophilus again. So you can kind of squeeze the rotavirus in there. That is one that I would really recommend squeezing in where you can, so you're not susceptible to the shedding of the rotavirus vaccine. Very good tip is grab your cell phone, put all the reminders in your phone straight away for the next few years of when you're going to be needing to give remedies. Otherwise, you will forget. Baby brain is real. Okay. So what we're going to do now is go through the FAQs. How much is one dose? It's 2 pilules. Can your baby choke on the pillules if they're only 1 to 5 months old? No, the pillules are very tiny. I'm sure all of you have seen the pillules. They are just 3 millimeters in diameter. It's literally impossible to choke on them. I usually just shove it in their lips. So put it in there and just leave it there. Or you can shove it in their cheek. When they're very little, you'll probably find they'll go, like you put it in their mouth and they go like that, and they'll try to push it out. And you just kind of shove it back into their cheek so they can't get it out. If you're really concerned, you can take 2 teaspoons. It's a bit tricky to do sometimes. Take 2 teaspoons and you crush the pillules between the 2 teaspoons, and then you just put the powder in their mouth. So that's another way that you can do it as well. If they've spat the pillules out completely, just give them a new dose. They need to be in the mouth for about 30 seconds or so to be effective. If your child throws up after taking the remedy, if it's within sort of 20 minutes of the dose, then just wait about half an hour, then give another dose. And with any of these, if you have any questions, obviously just post them in my group. I'm happy to guide you, or just send me an email. If the pillules fall on the ground, just throw them away. So don't put them back into the container. If your child is currently on any other homeopathic remedies, or they're ill, or they're teething, or they're unwell in any way, just wait until they're better again before you give them the homeoprophylaxis. So if they've had a tummy bug, if you can see they're really unhappy with the teething, cheeks are red and there's drool everywhere, and they've got horrible diapers and they're really unwell, and your homeoprophylaxis remedy is due that day, just leave it. Just wait a week until they're better. Just kind of move the whole program on a little bit, okay? And that's where it's good to put those dates into the schedule so you can see when the last one was given, and you just kind of move the whole program on from there. It's a very flexible program, which is really great. Western herbs, nutritional supplements are usually fine. Strong Chinese herbs and pharmaceutical medicines may antidote the remedies. I don't really believe that, but I have to tell you that because we have to. It's possible the remedies can be antidoted, but honestly, I found that the more I work with homeopathy, I found it's actually not that hard to antidote the remedies. Why is a triple dose used? So the first program that Isaac Golden did in 1986 used single doses, but Isaac found that with the triple doses, there's less chance of accidentally antidoting the remedy. So if you have given just like a single dose and somehow you've kind of antidoted it, or the child vomited it up soon after, you didn't give another one, they wouldn't be protected. But with a triple dose, you've got 3 times the chance of it actually working. So that's why he did that. I know the question around reactions, obviously you don't get any side effects with homeoprophylaxis or any homeopathy, because a side effect is something that happens that was not expected from the remedy, which is from the drug, which is what happens with pharmaceutical drugs, because they will give a drug to sick people, then see what symptoms what happens. But with homeopathy, we give a remedy, and then the symptoms that we produce, we know then is part of the symptom picture of that remedy. So we don't have any side effects. It is a line of action that the remedy has. So what are your chances of a reaction to the homeoprophylaxis? So Isaac Golden have found through all of these, the feedback on the back here that people have given him, that the chance of a reaction is about 2%, and it's usually really mild. And it's usually going to happen in the first 12 months of the program. A way to minimize this is to give the first single dose and the triple dose in the 200C potency, which is what his program does. And if there's no reactions, then you give the 10M potency a year later. If there is a reaction to the first single dose, and this is a good thing for us to talk about, then the use of the triple dose 1 month later should be reassessed. Usually it would be recommended just give another single dose the following month instead of a triple dose. So what you could do, say for example, you gave a single dose and your child had a reaction to the remedy. They had a big fever, they had a rash that came up. Then the next month, just give one more single remedy and just see how their body responds. If they do have another big reaction, what you could then do is do one of the other remedies. So say, for example, go to the others and then kind of come back to that one a little bit later and see how their body responds, because it obviously means there's a lot for their system to clear. Your body is only going to respond to a remedy if there is a resonance. What that means is that if there's something that your body needs to clear, it's going to use that little nudge from the remedy as an opportunity to clear that out of the system. But if there's nothing there to clear, your body's not going to produce any symptoms. So that's why when you do produce a symptom to a remedy, it's showing us that there is a disharmony there, there's something that needs to be clear. Proving symptoms, we quickly talked about that too much, but it's basically when you take too much of a remedy, you'll end up producing the symptoms that remedy is known to cure. It's quite rare. And once you stop taking the remedy, the symptoms go away. Can you vaccinate and use homeoprophylaxis? It's not recommended. It won't do any harm, but I always feel that if somebody wants to do both, for me, it's a huge warning signal that they are not actually confident in their own decision of what they've decided. So I would say just kind of sit with that decision a little bit. You obviously still have some things to work through. Get to a place where you feel confident with whichever decision you make, and then kind of stick with that. Can you use, we can also, in a vaccinating, we do have homeopathic remedies made from the vaccines itself, which you can use to help detox the body. Can I use HP if my child has previously received vaccines? Yes, especially because vaccination does not always initiate an immune response. So being vaccinated does not guarantee immunity against a particular disease. Just be aware that if your child might have a clearing reaction to any of the remedies for which they've had a vaccine. So say, for example, your child had the whooping cough vaccine, the Infamix Hexa, then you give the whooping cough remedy, they might have a clearing response because the body will recognize any disharmony that might have been caused and it will try to clear that out. How soon will my child have immunity after taking the remedy? Because they work energetically, the remedy can provide protection immediately after taking it, and the level of protection increases after the triple dose. And when you do the 10M, the protection lasts even longer. So Isaac Golden advises that once you've given the full program, the child should have at least 10 years protection. If the person is exposed to a sustained level of intense exposure to a disease, then the booster remedies can be used. So what this might look like I said before, is if your child's had the homeopathic immunization for whooping cough, but then there's an outbreak at their school and every single day they're in a class with kids who have whooping cough, eventually their immune system's going to need a little boost of that remedy. Do you have to give all the remedies? No, you can choose to just give certain ones if you wish, and you can add extras in. How will I know if the symptoms are a reaction to the remedy or just a coincidence? And this can actually be difficult to differentiate because let's face it, coinkydinks happen all the time. You might have given the remedy that morning, then gone to a play group, and then afternoon your child's sick, and you're not really going to know if they've picked up a bug from childcare or if it's from the remedy. But if your child is, so this is the thing with homeopathic clearing symptoms, is generally the person's well-being will still be pretty okay. So they might have like a whooping cough type cough, but you'll see that they're actually playing fine. The cough doesn't really bother them. Whereas if it's actual whooping cough, your child will be miserable. So that's generally how you'll know, just roughly, whether it's a response to the remedy or whether it's the actual disease. And also if it's a response to the remedy, it's short-lived. Whereas if it's the disease, it's probably going to be longer. We did talk before about if your child has a reaction to the first one, you can just give a single dose the next one. And like I said, all of this I'm emailing to you as well. So you'll have, literally this whole slide you will have access to. We talked about some reactions. So just fevers, runny noses, rashes. The reaction's most likely going to happen in the first 24 to 48 hours. So if your child has some fevery type thing, like a week after the remedy, it won't be the remedy. It usually happen pretty quickly. Can you antidote the remedies if it's too strong? Yes, you can. Camphor 200C. In over 10 years of practice, I have never had to do this. I've once come close to needing to do it, but I've never actually had to do it. So you can antidote a remedy if the reaction is too strong. We said that you can change the order. You can speed up the program. If your child's already had the disease, you don't need to give the remedy unless they've had complications. So say, for example, your child's already had whooping cough. Sorry, I keep using whooping cough as an example. It's just such a big thing. If your child's already had whooping cough and they recovered from it beautifully within a couple of days, there were no issues, you don't need to give the whooping cough immunization. But if your child had whooping cough and it dragged on for quite a while and you feel their energy has never been the same since, you can give the nosode, the homeopathic immunization for the whooping cough, and you'll find it will clear that what we call NWS, never well since. If you've missed the triple dose, that's fine. It's often you'll see mummies post in our group saying, I've forgotten the third dose. Is that fine? It's not a problem. As long as you've given the first 2 doses, that's fine. Parents can take the remedies. Your child cannot get the disease from the remedy, unlike vaccines where so many kiddies get the measles vaccine and then they get measles next week. I had a client literally yesterday who told me that their child had the measles vaccine and they got the measles next week. If your child gets the symptoms of the actual disease, we just treat it as per the symptoms that come up. You can use the nosode as well. A lot of homeopaths will tell you not to. I have never found a valid reason. There's lots of what we call Chinese whispers in homeopathy, where somebody's done something once and they have what they have perceived to be a interesting response from a remedy and then decided you should never give it that way. For example, bowel nosodes. We were taught, in 2010 that you only ever give bowel nosode once and you never repeat it within 3 months. And since then, I've gone on to do professional development where Hilary Dorian says prescribe a bowel nosode daily for 21 days. And I remember being shocked when I first heard that. I was like, well, we got taught never to repeat it within 3 months. These days, I prescribe bowel nosodes daily for 8 weeks. So there are lots of these types of fallacies in homeopathy, including that coffee and mint and all that and heat antidote the remedies. Obviously, we can't prove it, but all summer this year and last year, I left my most used remedies in the heat of the car. So it would have been like, 50 or 60 degrees in the car. And those remedies still work absolutely fine. So I have to teach you to use the remedies correctly, because if they are somehow antidoted and they don't work, you're going to think homeopathy doesn't work when actually it's just the remedies that's been antidoted. This is kind of what we just spoke about, how to take the remedies. They say don't brush your teeth or eat or drink 15 minutes before or after taking the remedy. But like I said, I usually just tell my clients, if you've just eaten, have some water to clean your mouth, then have your pillules, then wait 5 minutes, and then you can eat again. Especially with the prophylaxis remedies, I think it is worth, because you're only going to give it once a month, it is worth doing it correctly. So if your child's just eaten something, don't throw a pillule in there as well. Just kind of wait till they finish eating, give them a bit of water, give them their remedy, and just wait for about 10 minutes at least before they eat further. These are some other remedies as well. So if you're going to a country like, somewhere in Asia or South America, and you're worried about things like cholera, dysentery, malaria, rabies, smallpox, TB, typhoid, yellow fever, hepatitis, meningitis, Japanese encephalitis, or dengue fever, we have homeopathic immunizations for all of these. So I have done custom immunization scripts for several of my clients who are going traveling. This is obviously before COVID. These days, I haven't had any recently, but I'm sure they'll start coming in, where they're saying, look, we're going to this country and this country. I always say to my clients, this is what Isaac Golden says as well. Go and do the research on the diseases in that country that you're most worried about, then come back to me and then I'll give you the nosode. So I'm not going to go and do the research for you on what diseases are there. You need to go and take responsibility for your health. And part of that includes going and doing the research of what diseases are prevalent there that you are concerned about. Then I'll put an immunization plan together for you. You need to give me a minimum a month before you go, because we don't really want to do more than one disease per week. So usually if somebody came to me and they said, I'm worried about cholera and dysentery and malaria, then I'll often give them a triple dose. And the other thing is, you don't want to do the homeopathic immunization too close to when you travel, in case you have a clearing response to the remedy. So you don't want to take, say, the malaria nosode a day before you travel and then get symptoms of malaria and then you can't fly. So you kind of want to stop the immunization protocol at least a week beforehand. Okay. So the remedies, the kits have got, as you know, I really pride myself on being the only homeopath that I know of. I'm waiting for somebody to come and correct me, that has all waterproof colored labels with all waterproof dots on the top in glass bottles. So really good quality products. You get the full sheet that I mentioned about before, all the FAQs. You get the other difference with my kits is that some homeopaths will sell you a kit per child. So they will literally only put 6 pillules in a bottle and making you buy a kit per child. We have at least 60 pillules in each bottle. So you can buy one kit. That'll be enough for your whole family. So if you're comparing prices, just keep that in mind as well. Homeopathic remedies don't expire, but the TGA require us to put a 5-year expiry date on it. You can completely disregard that. There are documented cases of homeopathic remedies that are over 100 years old that are used successfully. They are $260 for the kit. You can get a 10% discount for this week, which I'll email out to you. Yeah, I usually do a little quiz at the end when I do the live person ones, but I know your kiddies are starting, I can see the kiddies are starting to get hungry and busy, so you might not have time to answer questions. But Bates, do any of you have any questions? You can turn your mics on and we can have a little chat and just see if you have any questions, or if you want to put your hands up, that might be an easier way to do it, I guess. Do you know the little hand? If you go to the raised, you know the little raised hand icon? There's like a little raised hand icon thingy. Anybody have any questions?
Bloody hell. Here we go. Oh,
Yay,
just
so-
quickly, somebody's put in the chat, what is the name of the book, please? Just so we can get that written in.
I did hold the book up when she asked that, but
Okay, cool.
yeah, that's okay. It's the Complete Practitioner's Manual of Homeoprophylaxis. And I was just saying that it's, unless you're a homeopath, I don't know how useful it would be. And the most important parts from the book I've actually covered in the talk today. But if you want to support Isaac Golden, get the book anyway, because he's an amazing man and he deserves to be supported. Sylvia, what would you like to ask?
Hey,
Bubby is
so
gorgeous.
Bodhi's 12 weeks old tomorrow. It's been a big journey of figuring out what do I do, because there's such a big push on conventional vaccination. And from the get-go, that's just been a no for me. Like, we had the vitamin K vaccine just after he was born at home, and my whole body went into shutdown. And so it was just a big indicator that I don't want to stick needles in my baby unless, you know, I don't have to. So this has been incredibly insightful and informational for me. So first of all, thank you, Evgeny. This is awesome. I definitely think it would be good, especially with the pertussis, like the regime, pertussis immunization for him to receive. He actually has a cough at the moment. It's at his first sickness. So I guess my question is, him being 12 weeks old, he would kind of start this later. And sorry, my mum brain just went hard.
I know that I remember that feeling so well. It's that mum brain is real. It's very real.
Yeah.
Like, take all the goodness out of us. So you're just wondering where you would start, or what's?
Yeah, where I would start. And also I guess I'm also curious as well, like, is it worth kind of holding off until he's sort of eating food, or is it okay for me to start doing it as he is now?
Oh, I would start it as soon as possible, knowing what I know now. Definitely.
Yeah.
Possible. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. And yeah, if I have any other questions, I will let you know. My brain just turned into mush, so I'm gonna pause it there and let anyone else ask questions.
Totally fine. With that feeling is real. We all get it. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think it took me like 5 years to get out of that haze.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. It's not going anywhere. Oh, and I think the other thing as well, like, for example, because he does have a cough, I could also treat this with homeopathics as well.
Absolutely.
And get additional things. No, I'm not.
Oh, so that would be a really good. So if you've watched that half-an-hour video of the introduction, after that you can join my Facebook group. And we tried to get it off Facebook because I know not everyone's on there. It was an epic fail, so now I'm just surrendering to Facebook. Then any questions like that, you can just post in the group and one of the mums can help you. But homeopathy is amazing. And we've got our little pouches. This one I've had in my handbag for 4 years, so it's not one of my new nice ones. Oh, here we go. So I always have it on the side of my handbag. And then you can have your 10, like the mum and bubs, you can have 10 remedies there. And just what up you can use straight away. And they are so durable and just they're amazing.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and join into that Facebook group.
Yay, cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. There was another couple of questions here, so I did answer that one. About my kitties. My main question was why it isn't recommended to do homeoprophylaxis first and then vaccination. I get that it's preferable to make a decision first, but is there a chance of reacting to vaccines after HP? Also, what does the program do that prepares for vaccination? So that's a really good question. So it's basically Isaac Golden has said not to do both, but like I said, when I presented that information, I said it's actually fine to do both. And definitely you can do the homeoprophylaxis first. That's going to prepare their body. And then if you decide to do vaccination later on, that's totally fine. They might have less of a reaction then because of it. The program that we use for preparing the body for vaccination is very different. I can, yeah, it's on a different screen. What we do for that is we have a couple of homeopathic remedies that we start giving a couple of weeks beforehand to prepare the immune system. And it includes a remedy called thymulene, which is what helps stimulate the immune system. And then we give you the remedies made from the vaccine itself. And we give that in a, say, for example, you're going for Infenrix Hexa, we're giving you the Infenrix Hexa vaccine remedy in a 30C potency the day before the vaccine, and then straight after the vaccine, the next day the 200C, the next day the 1M, and the next day the 10M. And that's using a program from Ton Janssen called Human Chemistry, who's yeah, so this also, once again, is a practitioner book. You wouldn't really purchase this unless you're a practitioner, but this is what we use for homeopathic vaccine detoxing. And then after you've done that initial program, you then do what's called a long-term vaccine detoxing program. And we've had incredible results. I have never had any of my clients who have done this in the 4 or 5 years that I've been doing vaccine detoxing have reactions when they've done this. So I'm very confident that me and any of the homeopaths on my team can support your children really well if they do go through the vaccination process. Christine, would you like to ask a question?
Did I unmute it properly? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So my children are grown, but my daughter has Lyme disease. So my question is, are there ever any immunizations for that, like homeopathics for that, if she were to have children?
For them to not have Lyme?
Yeah, so like you talked about the never well sense with the whooping cough.
I
And
mean,
then
use the, it depends, I mean, what, like how she kind of contracted or what's happened, but there are remedies that can, obviously, it kind of feels like that's probably not really part
that
of
would not be
immunization.
considered an immunization.
No, not really, but there is a remedy, Borrelia, which is obviously made from the tick that often causes Lyme. So you could kind of use that, but it's not something that you would do as a home prescriber, like you would do that in conjunction with a homeopath.
Right. I mean, she's being treated by one. I was just curious if that
okay,
could be,
cool.
so like, because they said it can pass if she has a child. So is there something
Well, yeah,
that could get added into the schedule?
Yeah, so you could give the Borrelia nosode, but like I have to be a bit careful what I say there because I don't know anything about the case, but technically without knowing anything about the case, that is something that your homeopath may consider.
Okay.
Cool. Tina, you're welcome to ask your question.
Hello. I have a few questions. One of the question is, so with the remedies, are you making them at your place?
Yeah, we have a facility here where we make them.
Okay. So because they obviously diluted with water, that's correct, right?
Yeah, well, we'll keep asking a question because I'm just trying to see where you're going with this so that I can answer it fully.
I'm just wondering, because I'm just trying to understand. So I watched that pre-video as well. So it's obviously diluted down. Yeah. It said it uses water. So I'm just wondering what water is being used.
Interesting. And we use water from our Zazen filter, but to be honest, the potencies that we use comes from a homeopathic pharmacy, and they use triple distilled water to make their remedies. Yeah,
might be a bit of an unusual question. Sorry.
That's all right. No, that's good. It's not one I could ask before, so it's always nice to. But the homeopathic pharmacies use triple distilled usually. If we make liquid remedies, we use the Zazen filter. We use reverse osmosis water, which we then put through the Zazen filter to like remineralize it, and then we do that. But that is for the liquid, like when we make liquid drop remedies. But the pileal homeoprophylaxis program, the pileals, which then have the medicating potencies from the homeopathic pharmacy that gets added to that.
Okay, I'm just the reason why I'm asking is just considering what is obviously what's in the water. And then the other question I have, so I've got 2 kids, one is older, and
you can put your video on if you want. It feels really weird to just speak to a voice, but if you don't want to, you don't have to.
So the older
Hi.
the older one actually was vaccinated. Unfortunately, at those days we didn't know better. And he did have a reaction. So that's why our journey for our second child is very, very different. He came out of it, it's all good, but you know, it's not a good feeling. So my first question is, would you recommend a detox first, and then because he would be due for further vaccinations, which you're obviously not doing, but would you then also recommend HP, like the remedies as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I would, that's something you would do in a consultation anyway, but absolutely do a vaccine detox is where I would start. And then I would probably do that HP program with them later on. So if you're going to be using HP for the little one, you'll have that kit already. So once you've done the detoxing with the first child, once their health is in a good place, you could do the HP down the track for them.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, this is what today is all about, is about the bubbies. They just want to make themselves heard. Was there anything else, Tina?
No, that was it. Thank you for that. That's number.
Oh, hello, gorgeous. Hello. Hello. Phoebe, what would you like to ask?
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm really interested in the immunisation, as I was done when I was little. My mum did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm really interested, but I've been like doing some research and like just on the internet, like the articles, and I've just come across the belladonna that is used in some of the remedies. There was an article about the Highlands and how they didn't regulate how much they put in their products.
If you actually go and listen to, because I know where the question's going, if you go and listen to my podcast episode with Paula Brown, she actually talks about that, because it wasn't actually the product itself, it was actually with the labeling of that product. So
okay,
a lot of misinformation in the media.
I thought that might have been.
Yeah, I'll just try and find that podcast episode. And Paula Brown is the, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she is the president of Americans for Homeopathy Choice. So episode 29 of my podcast, if you have a listen to that. So she talks exactly about the Highlands episode. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. Awesome.
Clever media and skeptics and that machine in the background that likes to destroy our access to natural medicine and create chaos and division and fear. They loved it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I thought that was the case. So
just for the record, nobody in 250 years has ever died from homeopathy, whereas pharmaceutical medication is one of the top. I think it's about the number 4th leading cause of death. Usually cardiovascular disease is number 1, which it definitely will be after recent events. Cancer is usually 2nd, and then there's 3rd or 4th is usually vaccine is pharmaceutical errors and medical errors. So correctly and incorrectly prescribed pharmaceutical medication.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
Thank you.
Never understand why we get all the heat when, anyway.
Yeah.
Christine and Tina, you still have your hands up. I wasn't sure if you have something else that you want to ask, or maybe you just haven't put them down, but does anybody else have any questions?
Nope, I just don't know how to put it down.
Okay, that's all right. No worries. Time. I wanted to make sure that, look at you. I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time for today to not have to rush through anything.
I have a little question.
Yes, fire away.
So my son's 16. He was given the homeopathic vaccines
Immunisation
early on.
The thing is the homeopathic.
But we had to move overseas to the Middle East, and they didn't recognise them. So he had about 5 vaccines. I had really spaced them, split them up, did all of that. He requires the meningococcal he's going to a summer camp. So I'm going to try and get around it with using the homeopathic remedies. So would you recommend him having the remedy at 200C and then further down? How would you recommend doing that?
It depends. I might have to individually chat with you about that one, because there are. I don't know.
Okay.
If you you could
Because
do
he's had the meningitis, but that's a separate thing, isn't it?
the vaccine.
It's different.
No, it's
Yeah,
the same thing.
it
So
is
if
the same thing.
Yeah. So if he's had the meningitis vaccine, the meningococcal vaccine,
Okay.
then
All right. Because when I Googled, they said, oh, no, it's different. But I'm sure that's just a
just the
ploy.
one, there's just that one vaccine anyway that covers that. So
Okay.
unless there's
All
your
right.
schedule might be different, because I know the American schedule is even
Oh,
more
it's
hectic.
crazy
Yeah.
over here. Yeah.
Yeah, the kiddies get 40 vaccines here by the time they're 4, and I think it's about 60 vaccines in America by the time they're 4.
Yeah. 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 All right. Thank you.
No worries. Phoebe, did you have another question? No? Okay. Sylvia?
Yes. The other question I have is just regarding the recognition of homeopathy immunization when it comes to like daycare and schooling and things
Not
like that.
recognized at all, because there's
Yeah.
no money in it for big pharma. So yeah, not recognized at all.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just
It used
interesting,
to
like,
be.
depending what pathway you go down. So
Yeah.
if you choose to not do the vaccination, then it really limits the amount of access you can get. But there's always a different way, and yeah, I trust that it'll work out for us how it's meant to.
Oh, it always yeah, there's a will, there's a way. And there's some families that have created some incredible friendships over here, especially when the No Jab No Play started coming in, that have created their own little play groups, and like there's a real sense of community that started happening because of that. So I think the human spirit is actually quite strong.
Awesome, thank
No
you.
worries. Tina, have you got a question?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah.
Said the protection it will last for about 10 years. So do you recommend when they like late teens to give more remedies, or don't worry about it because you then obviously almost adult?
You can. It's not going to hurt at all to give more remedies then. It's yeah, not going to hurt at all. So you can definitely. Ariana, is there anything else that you want to ask? Cool. So Ariana said, when I give a nosode currently, can I still start HB or better to wait? Do you mean a nosode that's been prescribed? Like if she's on a homeopathic prescription, then
Sorry, can you hear me?
yeah. So if she's on a prescription, you would just obviously ask your homeopath, so me, when to give the HP. So
if she does a tuberculinum, for example, then I wait to finish that off, and then
yeah, we'll just send me an email, because we'll just kind of work it into her schedule somewhere.
Okay.
So whenever you want to start, then we'll work that in there.
yeah, okay, cool, sounds good.
Anybody
very
have
much.
any other questions? So once again, if you haven't received an email from me, just let me know, because they did show us all having gone out. This is our first time setting up this automated mail system, and it looked from our end like it all went out okay, but somebody did say they didn't receive their email. So just flick me an email, just info@eugeniekruger.com. I can forward that to you. And then what I'm going to do with this is upload it into probably Google Drive or somewhere, and then just send you the link, and then that will be available for 48 hours. And the reason with all of this is, like I said before, it's just very sensitive information. We have to be really careful with how we do this. And to be honest, whether you give somebody a year to watch somebody, or whether you give them 2 days to watch something, you know, if I give you a year, you would probably wait until the last 2 days to watch it anyway, let's be honest. That's how I work anyway. So I figure, let's give you 2 days to watch it. That's it. I mean, you won't need to, that anyone who's watching the recording will be the 48 hours, and then it'll go down again. And I'm going to try and do these every month, or just kind of as needed. Take nice little small groups, but yeah, don't spread the information out of here. So don't appreciate if you don't send the link to all of your friends, especially not any people who are not kind of, anyone who's on the fence. Homeopathy is under such constant attack. So we do have to be really careful with spreading this information. And that's the reason why not many homeopaths talk about this, and why I got that phone call last week saying, be careful with giving this information, because it's just yucky times that we're in, when you can't speak freely about something that's helped so many people for so many hundreds of years. So yeah, that's it. But thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I wish.
Thank you, Jeannie.
A pleasure. So I'm so lucky that we had somebody from America as well. It's great. Like whole selection. Thanks so much. It's probably getting close to midnight there.
It's only 10:30, 10:40.
Oh, excellent. It's still
Yeah,
awesome. Well, have a good sleep.
exactly.
Our
Thank
day is
you.
starting.
Take care. I'll see
See
you
you later,
again.
everyone.